So there are a lot of people who are celebrating the bill passing. One guy's name is Derek Van Orden. He is a representative out of Wisconsin. He represents the 3rd District. He actually posted this on his Twitter, and then I guess he figured it didn't look good, or someone told him it didn't look good, and he decided to delete it. But what originally happened was Caroline Leavitt made a tweet that said victory after the bill passed. And a group named Logic Luminary replied to her post. And then Derek takes their post, their reply, and he reposts it with the word yes in all caps, which is very Elon Musk. You know, Elon always loves just put yes or wow or interesting or amazing. But he puts yes and he retweets this. 17 million people just lost health insurance. 18 million kids just lost school meals. 3 million Americans just lost food assistance. $3.5 trillion was added to the deficit, all for a tax cut for Trump's billionaire donors. He retweeted that and posted yes to celebrate this moment. And then I guess someone said that's not a good look and he ended up deleting it. Now, there's a lot of folks who would sit back and go, man, I can't believe that guy would post something like that. I can't believe that some representative somewhere in this country would actually celebrate a moment like this. And folks, what I would say to you is it's always been this way. You could go back to when my mom was a little girl. You could go back before she was ever born to back when FDR was trying to push through the New Deal. He had people who were standing against him back then, calling him a socialist, calling him a communist, saying that this would be the death of America. And they have kicked and screamed and fought against it ever since. The last decent Republican president that we had's name was Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he's one who said we should never get rid of Social Security. He's one who pretty much said it would be the end of this country and anyone would be a fool to get rid of it. He's the last one that ever said that. And when I grew up in the 80s, I never heard Ronald Reagan reference Eisenhower. I sure never heard the Bushes recognize Eisenhower or mention him. And of course, Donald Trump's not going to, because no one's ever going to point to that as a Republican. Hell, now that we're in the Trump era, they don't even point to Reagan and Bush. They're just all about Trump. But folks, it has always been this way. When I was a kid growing up in the 80s, there were Republicans who were fighting the Democrats tooth and nail for any social program or any government assistance. They've always been fighting against it. They've always been kicking against it since before most of us was born, and they will be long after we're all gone. There are simply rich, spoiled people in this world who has it all, and they do not want to see other people get ahead in any way, shape, or form. And it's not just that they look down their nose on poor people. It's not just that they look down their nose on poor people who can't work, who aren't able to work. It's not just that. They look down their noses on the working poor too. They look down their noses on people who aren't up there with them riding around on their yacht and talking about the tax cut they're going to get from Trump. That's why the guy was celebrating. He looks down his nose on people like us. We're peons to him. So what did Donald Trump do? He came along and figured out a way to get everyone to fight their culture wars, figured a way to get everyone divided, figured a way to get everyone to thinking, oh, we're owning the libs, we're winning in this moment. And now they'll just sit there and vote clearly against their own interests like never before. And people like this guy can celebrate like never before. But truthfully, I don't know why he deleted the post, honestly, because we really all knew they were celebrating. We all knew they were happy about this. I guess a lot of people probably just thought, well, you know, when all this starts to sink in, people are going to play that tweet back and they're going to show it again. And that's not going to be a good look once your constituent starts to really feel the pain of this bill. And that's another side of this story. They knew this bill was going to hurt the working class. They knew this bill was going to hurt the people that they said they were going there to represent. But they did not care, and I will drive this point home, they never fucking have. At no point have they ever cared. And they're never going to. They're always going to find a way to keep people like us fighting amongst ourselves. They're always going to find a way to keep pushing as many culture wars and cultural issues as they can to the forefront. They're going to find every way they can to distract you from what they're doing to you. And then when this all sinks in, mark my words, just remember I said it, and I'm really not trying to be Nostradamus on this one, but just remember I called it. When a Democrat takes back the White House, and it'll happen, we'll get back, we'll make it. When the Democrats regain control of the White House and they've got it all, the effects of this big, beautiful bill will really be in full swing. And things will be tough, and things will be hard. And there will be Republicans out there saying, look what these Democrats caused. Look what the Democrats done. That has been the vicious cycle that has been America for my entire life, for my mother's entire life. And I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm not trying to bring down the room. But if my grandson's watching this, son, it'll probably be for the rest of your life too. This is what we're up against. All we can keep doing is talking about the issues at hand. All we can keep doing is telling people where we stand and what we stand up for and why. Remember, like Andy Bashir taught us, always give them your why as to why you believe the way you do and why you make the stand that you do. We just got to keep putting in the work and moving it forward. But if we think for 1 second that these type of people are ever going to go away, I guarantee you, if Grandpa could come back from the Great Depression, he'd go, no, they aren't. They're not. They're never going to change. they're not going to change. This is going to be them from now on. They're going to raise people to be just like them. That's why we can't depend on the kids to save us. There's always going to be a group that is going to be raised up to believe this stuff is okay. And now that we're in the Trump era, that's really scary because we've got the most cold-hearted, cruel president we've ever had, who kids are growing up under and who looks at that and thinks that's normal. So we truly do have our work cut out for us. Now, I'm about to say something that could offend a whole good chunk of my audience. I want y'all to know that I always want to be truthful with you and just tell you how I feel about things. I actually, the video that I made yesterday talking about the bill passing, I actually made it before I got the news that it passed. I just went ahead and made it because I knew it was going to happen. Now, some people would say, Brando, you should have been telling us that we could change things. You should have been telling us that it wasn't going to pass. But folks, I knew the minute they coined the phrase, the big, beautiful bill, I knew it was going to pass. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have called our representatives. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have protested. I'm not saying that we shouldn't let our voices be heard. It's just that I knew at the end of the day that these politicians had no spine. I knew at the end of the day there would not be any Republicans save us. I knew at the end of the day that if it come down to a Democrat and we needed one Democrat, I knew there wouldn't be a decent one that would stand up and say a damn word. So that's why as we went along, I just started talking about the bill and what it was going to do and when this thing passes. And some people say, don't say when. Don't say when. And I'm like, it's going to pass. I'm just being realistic. I'm just being realistic. I'm not trying to bring down the room. I'm always sitting here going to bat every day for democracy and going to bat every day for marginalized groups of people and speaking up and speaking out, and I always will be. But when it comes to us depending on a politician to save us, I'm never going to tell you, oh, don't worry, Rand Paul's going to save the day. No, he's not, okay? He's not. Neither is Murkowski. Neither is J.D. Vance. He's never going to have, J.D. Vance will never even have a Mike Pence moment, okay? I'll go ahead and get on record and say that. If it ever comes down to J.D. Vance needing to save us, he ain't going to, because that's what we're up against now. We're up against a radical, authoritarian, extreme, Fifth Reich is what we're basically up against. It's going to take everything we got going forward to stand up against it and call it out at all cost. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, don't worry, folks. We might get the votes we need. We might get a Republican to be decent. We might get a Democrat to grow a spine. I'm never going to say those things because I have absolutely no faith that they will ever do the right thing. I have faith in you. I have faith that you can keep speaking up and speaking out and protesting and getting out there and doing things and putting in the work. I have faith that we can always stand up and be on the right side of history, but I have no faith that anyone in that swamp that Hakeem Jeffries pointed out, you all are the swamp. I have no faith that anyone in that damn swamp is ever going to reach in and save any of us. If it comes right down to it, I would be more surprised, and trust me, if there ever comes a moment where something is about to pass and one or two decent Republicans stands up and stops it, I will come on here and admit that I was wrong. I will come on here. I will drop to one knee and admit that I was wrong in front of the whole damn world. That's because I just can't see it happening. And so I don't want to get people's hopes up by saying, oh, don't worry, the bill might not pass. Maybe we got enough votes over here, folks. When Donald Trump says jump, these people are going to say how high because they don't have no spine. There's very few out there that will stand up against him. And at the moment, they're outnumbered. People will say, well, if we could all just get together and, just do this. Well, it took Republicans to get Nixon to step out. You think Republicans are going to say anything to Donald Trump? If that's who we got to depend on to pull it off, you think they're going to? No, they're not. But that doesn't mean we don't protest. That doesn't mean we don't speak out. That doesn't mean we don't keep putting into work. That doesn't mean we stop calling our representatives. It just means we be realistic about it and understand the fight that we're truly in. Because we are. We're going to be in one hell of a fight going forward. And the truth is, we always have been. I remember conversations I had. I'll close with this little story. I remember conversations I had with my grandmother. She's who nicknamed me Brando. If she called me Brandon, something was wrong. So whenever she said Brandon, I was always like, oh, what's wrong? But as long as she was saying Brando, I knew we were good. And she was very progressive, very, very liberal-minded. She kind of was like the old TV show Maude. It's kind of who she looked and reminded me of. In a lot of ways, she was kind of like a Southern Maude. But anyway, I remember her talking about how she grew up in the Great Depression and how hard it was and how brutal it was and how much she watched her family suffer. And I heard her talk about my great-grandfather, her dad, and all he had to do to work to pull him out of it. And she'd tell me stories about FDR and the New Deal and how that it pretty much saved the day, and how that her mother-in-law on the opposite side was kicking and screaming against it every step of the way. And my Nana was saying to her, but don't you see, this is going to help us. We're going to be able to eat. And my old great-grandmother was kicking against it every step of the way. And when FDR died, she looked at my grandmother and said, the Irish sure smells sweeter today. So folks, there has always been assholes. There has always been people brainwashed by this shit, including my great-grandmother. Sorry to throw you under the bus, but that was a cunt thing to say. There's always been people this way. There always will be people this way. And the only thing we can do is stand up and fight against it, no matter who they are. When I say I don't care which side my grandpas will be on if they come back today, I mean it. I don't care if Jesus Christ came back today and sat down beside me and said, actually, I've been talking to Mike Johnson. I'd say, get out of here. I want nothing to do with you.